Trump saw an opportunity to completely disrupt China.
I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary. Tariff or tariffs.
And this is for directors. During this trade war, China might start looking towards Australia, for more favorable deals and stuff like that. So that's good for our economy, generally speaking.
So what happens with that sort of stuff is all of a sudden they've lost an export partner. Our GDP is heavily dependent on export. The only way we're going to be able to avoid a recession or further deflation is if we devalue our currency, we will become a more attractive trade partner with a lot of the world. The tariffs are going to affect you. They're going to affect you in a way that you don't see on a macro level, but on a micro level, you will have more spending power. But unfortunately, we don't have the savings at the moment. My advice is
welcome to the Finance Show with Joe. He's Joe, I'm Michael, and today we're going to be talking about the Trump tariffs and how they affect Australia, or do they affect Australia? I can't imagine they don't affect us. They're affecting the entire world.
Oh man, I've got juices flowing through me, because it's.
This sounds kind of gross.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not excited because the tariff implication affects us on a global scale. Not so much. It's actually beneficial on a micro scale. So the individual in Australia is going to be. So I don't want to say better off, because we're always going to get fucked somehow. But me outside looking in, using my previous qualifications as an economist, the individual is actually going to benefit, and there's several reasons why. But before we get into that, Michael, highlight what happened.
Okay. So, just so everyone is aware, and you're not glued to your screens constantly. So, Australia copped the 10% baseline tariffs that every country in the world copped from the US.
Correct.
So, we've got that. The important thing is steel and aluminium tariffs.
I'll say it 5 times.
I can't even say it once. Those are at 25%. We do have items exempt from US tariffs. This includes timber and lumber, copper, semiconductors, semiconductor manufacturing equipment, and select pharmaceutical products. Some other things to note is that the US only imports 0.6% of Australia's steel, iron, and aluminium exports. The US only buys 5% of Australia's total exports, period. So early estimates, they also suggest a $27 billion loss for Australia, which is about 1% of GDP. That's under the worst predictions. Our largest export to the US is beef. 25% of US beef imports come from Australia. And that's actually mostly due to the US drought, which has really affected cattle farming there. So it's actually risen to 30% in 2025. So that's where we're at. Those are the numbers to keep in mind.
So I love a good trade war. And we are a speck on Trump's radar, and that's why he did 10%, because he was like, "Oh, I can't show."
Well, literally every country in the world copped 10%. Even that island that doesn't have any people living on it.
I saw that one.
The fucking Penguin Island got 10%.
But Trump saw an opportunity to completely disrupt China, completely. And what I mean by that is, I think. How much of America's imports are from China? It would be 30%,
large.
Something. It would be a huge amount, because you go to any Walmart or you go to any one of their stores, everything is made in China. China currently has a housing issue before any of this. So a lot of their housing was backed by government, and a lot of their housing was backed by their own institutional funds. So there's, whenever you hear about Chinese money, it's the same players, and they're all around the world. They're the reason why Vancouver went, so high. It's why Sydney's property market went so high. We know, we all know what it is. They were building in their own country, and they had invested a lot of money. And a lot of their money that they leverage comes from exports.
Yeah, okay.
So all of a sudden, if an American company needs to pay 84% to import something in,
they're obviously not going to bother.
They're not going to bother. They're going to find another resource. Canada makes porcelain, for example. Argentina has beef.
Canada's a poor example, though. They're going through their own
Oh,
little trade, their own little tiff right now.
Don't get me started on them.
Yeah.
But what he saw was an opportunity to completely cripple the Chinese market
Yeah.
by destabilizing their housing market, because now you've got all these institutional funds that were depending on profits from their exports, and now they're not getting a cent.
But this is what's interesting for Australia, where we might, I don't know what's going to happen with China. That's because China is essentially the manufacturer of the world. That's where most manufacturing comes from.
They've got 1.4 billion people. They're going to build stuff. It happens.
Well, they can also just do it at the most competitive rate as well. That's why manufacturing is not in the US.
Yeah.
But for Australia, during this trade war, China might start looking towards Australia more, for more favorable deals and stuff like that. So that's good for our economy, generally speaking, because that's just more money. The downs, obviously from China's point of view, we're not exactly going to plug up the gap that the US. We don't even have a half the population that the US does.
Yeah.
So
we've got 1/10 or 1/11 their population.
There you go. We're not plugging that gap, is what I'm trying to say. No. So yeah, we might get more, and Europe as well. Where for the consumer, like us individuals, potentially. But the real big one the thing that we might benefit from is lower interest rates, sort of across the world, because as global demand for capital goes down, interest rates also go down.
Do you know the reason why they decreased our interest rates? They had an emergency meeting. So there's a number of factors that went into this emergency meeting. Our GDP is heavily dependent on exports.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I've mentioned it countless times, but we built on iron ore, mining, beef, as you mentioned earlier.
Mining, agriculture, and education. They're our biggest exports.
They're our biggest exports. So who got affected very quickly? You've got Gina Reinhart, you've got Rio Tinto, you've got BHP, you've got all the big companies. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, I think Gina lost like 250 million in a day, or 200. It was a large amount of money that she lost in a day. Yeah. Paper money. It's not actual money, but it was, oh no, my shares are worth this.
Yeah, the value, the value's gone down.
Our chief economists actually made a very good move. And a lot of people won't be aware of this. So they would see the interest rates go down. Mind you, this pissed me the fuck off, but we'll get into that later. When your interest rate goes down, that means the value of your dollar is actually cheaper.
Yeah.
Which means more people will export and they'll trade with you. So let's say the euro stays the euro. Like that doesn't change. Mm-hmm. Australia drops their interest rates and all of a sudden what would cost you $1 in Europe costs you 50 cents in Australia. Mm-hmm. Do you remember back in the early 2000s when they filmed The Matrix here and Mission Impossible and everything?
Oh, yeah.
It's because filming was 50% cheaper than what it would be in America.
And you get all the benefits of being in America as well. It's not like our cultures are that different.
And no. So what they did was they called an emergency meeting at the Reserve Bank of Australia and they said, guys, the only way we're going to be able to avoid a recession or, further deflation, because we're going through some serious inflation's coming right the fuck down right now.
Yeah.
The only way we're going to actually be able to reduce this is if we devalue our currency, we will become a more attractive trade partner with a lot of the world. Europe, it's very hard to devalue their currency because they all depend on the euro, and there's 40 countries that depend on it. It's a lot of countries.
It's a lot of countries, yeah. And it's the third biggest economy in the world or second biggest economy? No, third.
But it's something that occurred. The second reason, and this is also conspiracy Joseph in the room. All right. Do we have a hat I can wear for conspiracies?
We'll get the tinfoil hat.
Yeah. We need some sort of garbage bag or something for these sorts of moments. But we saw Gina, we saw all the big companies, they get their GDP affected.
Yeah.
These guys borrow money so that they can produce. Mm-hmm. Their institutional banking is insane. You will see Amazon borrow $125 million and pay it back 2 days later.
We've mentioned this on previous episodes. Yeah.
So what happens with that sort of stuff is all of a sudden they've lost an export partner, regardless 0.6%, 10%, whatever it is. We've lost an export partner This individual has lost 250 million. She owes Commonwealth Bank of Australia X amount of dollars in some sort of facility.
Yeah.
Okay. She doesn't have $250 billion sitting in cash in a bank. She might, but
I like to imagine her jumping into like a pile of money like Scrooge McDuck or
Yeah.
something.
but she doesn't have that. She's got paper money. It's in shares. It's in her name. It's in the companies that she owns.
Yeah, it's not liquid money.
No. So, and she might owe them money. And then all of a sudden, if her shares drop, her ability to repay that money drastically goes down as well.
Yes.
I'm, yet again, Conspiracy Joe in the room. I'm of the belief that those interest rates dropped significantly. They had the emergency meetings when they realized the larger companies are going to be affected the most. They didn't give a shit when the everyday Australian was going homeless or inflation was sky high and people couldn't afford their groceries. Look at Woolworths. Woolworths and Coles are the perfect example. Nothing has come of that inquiry.
No.
They've spent 80 mil. How much did they spend on the inquiry? $80 million? $800 million? It was
No,
something
it wasn't
stupid.
800 million, but I thought,
bro.
it was a significant. No. It's 80 million is not nothing to sneeze at, but it wasn't 800 million.
No. They spent a significant amount of money on that inquiry, and I have seen nothing come of it. I have not seen a refund. I have not seen, guys, you have to drop your prices 30%, your price gouging. I saw a video the other day. A box of Coke costs $50. 24 cans of Coke costs $50.
It's a case of beer.
When did we become so stupid as a society that we thought that was something that we like? When did we become brainwashed and think to ourselves, yeah, that's a good buy?
Well, we've only got the two major supermarkets who own half of everything. Like each own a half of everything. So Woolworths, Wesfarmers, and the Woolworths Group.
You know, I think for every dollar spent in Australia, I think 65% of it goes through those two companies. That's
What I mean. Like it's a duopoly rather than a monopoly, which is not. I guess it's minorly better.
No.
But it's not you don't want a monopoly.
Yeah, but as we can see, as soon as tariffs were declared, all of a sudden, hey guys, oh shit, we've got to pay our money back. All right, make it cheaper. So this coming Tuesday, RBA's meeting.
Oh yeah.
There's been so many reports of inflation is now down, and we're looking at this statistic, and we want the Australian individual to be able to spend money again.
Yeah.
They need us. They need us back. They need us
all
to
of a
where
sudden
we were
consumer
before.
spending is important again.
It wasn't important 2 years ago, but
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, Australia needs to re-stimulate the market. They're not going to look at, the exports. They're going to look at the individual. I won't be surprised if there's a new change in the BCA, the Building Code of Australia. Like, I won't be surprised if that happens to get more people actively purchasing homes. Perfect example. Labor's come in with this an extension of the first home guarantee policy.
Oh yeah.
Where they are now increasing the price caps to 1.5 million for New South Wales-based properties, and I think Victoria's 1.2 mil.
Okay.
Huge amounts
Yeah.
from 950 to 1.5 mil.
Well, I guess because the median prices have gone up. Like, what's the median price in Sydney now? 1.2.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
All it's going to do is increase that. It's going to increase economic activity. It's going to increase, the average build. The average builder's dependence on bricks and timber, because guess what? They're going to have more buyers coming knocking at their doors because they've got more pre-approvals.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to this because I'm going to be busier, okay, and we're going to be able to facilitate a lot more lending. But there's underlying issues. People think, oh, he's just done this because he can. He's obnoxious. He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm telling you now, that bloke went in there and he's like, I'm going to destabilize everything. I've already got X, Y, Z set up with Elon Musk, and I'm going to make sure that I am the most profitable man out of this room afterwards.
Look, I'm not. I'm not. I'm just straight up. I'm not an economist, and in terms of something like this, I don't know what the result could be. I couldn't even predict it, and I don't have much of an opinion on it because as I was mentioning earlier, like Australia itself doesn't get impacted too severely in a negative way, especially because we didn't retaliate, and it's not because we didn't retaliate because we're Trump's lapdog or whatever like that.
We are Trump's lapdog.
No, I know, but it wasn't. It was an economic reason not to retaliate. Because if we retaliated, GDP would go down 1%, unemployment would rise by 0.25%, but although inflation would go down still.
You said something there. Unemployment would go down 0.25%.
No, it'll go up 0.25.
No, it would go up 0.25. There was a report last September where Michelle Bullock, the governor of the RBA, said unemployment is not where we need it to be yet. She said that. She announced it and she goes, we need, unfortunately, interest rates will remain this high until unemployment comes to the level that we need it to be at. I'm going home and you know me, I'm going to do a rant on Instagram about her and those words because I want to see what's this. Can you do you have the internet on there?
Yeah. Well.
Can you look up the statistics of unemployment last September? Michelle Bullock's work, and what she spoke about. Go on ChatGPT. You'll find it all there. But that is the perfect example of we're going to switch. We're going to do a 180, and we're going to turn this into a negative spin on Trump, as opposed to a something that we wanted. Because if unemployment increased due to the Reserve Bank of Australia's rates being that high, and then they slowly brought them down and everything, then they would be like, oh, look, guys, we did it. But because an external factor came in and caused it all, that is the issue. That is the reason why they say, no, we're going to decrease interest rates. We want people to work again. Yeah, get fucked. Sorry. Furthermore, whilst you're doing your research and stuff, I'm just going to keep rambling here. Furthermore, behind all of this is the inside trades that are happening at the moment. They announced the tariffs, walked it back 3 days later, and I think Ivanka Trump's or one of the Trump kids' net wealth grew by $100 million.
Yeah, I've heard calls about insider trading and things like that, and market manipulation.
So I'm gonna, as somebody that's been around that, it all exists.
Yeah.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
There you go.
That's it.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised, but that's just my bias.
He's in for 4 years. After that, he's not allowed to be in anymore. So he's probably taking advantage now and being like, okay, these are all the deals I'm going to make, and this is how I'm going to do this. And the guy's crazy enough, he might actually be thinking to himself, hey, this is how I'm actually going to fix shit. Because he is, when Trump first got voted in 2016, it was chaos. Week after week, it's this, it's that, it's this. And then 3 years later, you had a massive uproar of individuals all across America being like, no, we want him in. They rigged the vote. These are fake votes. The dead people will vote. Like just anything and everything. And conspiracy joke and go even further. But what I'm trying to highlight is he's been in for 4 months.
Yeah, 100 days marked, was it the other day?
Yeah, he's been in for 4 months. By the end of the year, everybody could be singing a different tune. In 2 years' time, they could be just singing a different tune.
Yeah, look, for me, I am sitting and waiting because I don't know. Like I have my opinions on the social issues, but when it comes to the economic stuff, I know when I'm out of my league. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to pretend like I do.
So I just want to give some strong tips to our listeners, whoever you are, singular. If you
know who you are.
If you were planning to travel this year, don't.
Oh yeah, I was literally in the UK when the tariff chaos was happening. When it went this, and then the markets went nuts, and then he backflipped, and then it went nuts again, and then he went back again, and everyone's like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm like, I need pounds.
Yeah,
I need some pounds sterling, please.
It's too expensive.
Yeah,
and it's too expensive to travel outside of Australia.
Right. Yeah, just travel domestically. Got a big country.
Yeah, Byron Bay's pretty cool. But I'm just going to highlight. I think our dollar reached 56 or 52 cents.
For the US dollar?
Yeah. That is extremely weak.
We are $1.56 for $1 US.
No, but our low was like...
Oh, the low?
Yeah.
It was $1.56 actually. Like, let me flip this around.
I think...
Let me flip this around. Hang on.
You're throwing numbers at me that...
Don't make sense.
No.
When I first read it... Okay. $1 Australian is 64 US cents.
That was the lowest?
That's what it is right now.
Yep.
On the 8th of April, it was 60 cents.
Mm-hmm.
That's the low, 60 cents.
So if it's trading at 60 cents on there, that means you're buying it at about 58 cents. If you're at the airport, 52. You are going to get ruined if you try and travel overseas right now. Absolutely ruined.
Yeah, I was lucky that the pound sterling thing only went down like 2 cents or something like that, rather than anything like like I mean, on the graph it looks very dramatic.
Yeah.
but in terms of my actual spending power, it was like maybe $1 or $2 more.
But you're not the type of person to spend stupidly either.
No, well, yeah, there's that as well. Yeah, if you spend, the more you spend, the more it actually starts to make a difference.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I was only like a couple $100 here.
22-year-old me, gone. Absolutely gone. The bloke would not, like, he'd come back with no shoes.
I had to sell a kidney so I could
Man,
get my
no,
flight.
like, I'm just remembering, like, just the boys' trips we used to have, you know, parties, all that sort of stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, like, thankfully our dollar was strong when I was there because, wow, I was a stupid kid.
Yeah,
Like, that's it. And all I'm trying to say to our listeners right now is, hey, guys, if you're going to do some online shopping, don't use American websites. You're going to get smashed.
yeah.
Make sure that if you are going to travel, try and go somewhere that might be cheaper. Japan is really good right now.
Japan, New Zealand,
Yep.
domestic.
Yeah, they're close by. Don't go to Europe right now. That is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And you're going to be there. They're going to, and they're going to, when I travel, I've got money put aside for rip-off money because I'm going to get ripped off by some person, some taxi driver. Someone's going to rip me off at some point in time.
As a tourist, you just expect to pay more for things.
Exactly. So that $200 could quickly become $300 whilst I'm overseas, just for taking a client call in the middle, like whilst I'm traveling or something.
Oh, do you have your phone number switched on while how you would you couldn't turn it off?
The dream.
The dream, and I definitely switched mine off.
When I travel now, this is how bad it's gotten. When I travel now, I am researching the flights for hours to see how strong their Wi-Fi connection is. Alison just sleeps. She just sleeps. She just hangs out.
Sarah does the same thing. I'm jealous. I'm just sitting there.
Yeah, I'm sitting there. I'm answering Teams messages for the most random. I'm getting emails from lenders. I'm just like, guys, it's right there. It's a salary sacrifice. Every doctor has it. What are you doing? And unfortunately, the world that I live in is quite often source dependent. It can't come from Michael Azina cannot be sending an email on behalf of Joseph Dawood. It has to be coming from Joseph Dawood.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's how you got to be able to process loans. And unfortunately, I have to have internet on the flight.
Well, I guguess that's why they have it. Like there were people near me who were doing that. No one was taking a call as far as I was aware, but they were definitely on their phones and laptops doing tippy typing and all that sort of stuff.
The US dollar is going to be a very powerful thing again in the coming times. It's always been the centralized currency.
Yeah,
It's backed. I'm pretty sure.
since World War II. Yeah,
But it's. I think they recently brought gold back in as like the number one thing that's backing it. I'm not too sure. I've left those days behind me. Just
are we back to the gold standard?
yeah,
That's crazy.
It's a precious metal.
We haven't done that since one of the world wars. I actually can't remember which one it was.
I think it was just after Vietnam. To be honest, I think it was after
When did
that.
we get rid of the gold standard? This is just from my own curiosity.
For the individual, that's out.
71, by the way.
I was close. I said 68.
71. Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to everything, back to Michael's questions. Are the tariffs really going to affect the everyday Australian? Yes and no.
Yeah, it's not scary or as dramatic as one might think.
It's
Or at least for Australians. I can't speak for the rest of the world.
it's to a point that they're dropping the interest rates. This is the scary part that you have to think to yourself. And I always say, just get in the property market because you'll fucking make money. I said, was it this episode or the last episode? The average savings of an Australian has gone down from
last episode. Yeah.
Last episode, the average savings has gone down from 39,000 to 29,000. It's a very important factor. So, property is more expensive than what it was 3 years ago. I think it grows at 11% or 12% a year, across Australia. Rent is more expensive, 19% more expensive. So people have less savings. They've got less of a chance to have a house deposit. People who already have property are going to have the opportunity to borrow more money on those properties to go buy extra property. So there's going to be a larger inequality gap that's actually created with these interest rates dropping. It was very similar to COVID. If you remember in COVID, You had
The 0.1% interest rates, cash rate. Sorry.
you had a 0.1% cash rate, but you also had the business owners benefiting the most.
Oh yeah, because they were getting the job seeker stuff. Yeah.
They were getting job seeker. There were other government funds,
Or JobKeeper,
and people were
whatever.
making record profits during COVID.
Yeah, which
And
the whole point was that it was
And-
economic. Oh my god, economic activity was going down.
and the average employee was spending money like crazy, online shopping, going out to restaurants, anything.
Everyone bought an Adidas tracksuit.
It's different now. We don't have the government stimulus. If Albo comes out and he says job seeker, I'm going to be like, what?
That'd be crazy.
I'll lose my marbles. But that's where the inflation came from the first time.
Yeah, yeah.
And if interest rates drops this time, okay, they drop 1%. The first home buyer is going to experience more expenses. The person that bought 2 years ago is going to be fucking cheering.
Yeah.
They're going to be so happy. The person that bought this year is going to be so excited.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah. But they're going to be so happy because their properties are going to shoot up in value. And why? And I keep going back to the exact same point. Supply, and it's all about these tariffs. It's all about everything.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. We're going to let in
Most
400.
simplest concept to know in economics.
We're going to let in more people. We're not going to approve as many dwellings, and we're going to make it more expensive for a developer to build. Okay.
Demand goes up, supply stays where it is.
Final point before we end this episode. Do you know why a lot of the developers are moving regional?
I assumed it was cheaper construction costs.
No.
No?
Construction costs is actually more expensive.
Oh, because you got to like transport the materials and stuff there? Yeah. Okay.
Cheaper land.
Yeah, makes sense.
When you are a large-scale developer or a builder of sorts, your biggest cost,
The land purchase.
land purchase, stamp duty, land tax, holding costs.
Yes.
So you'll buy the block of land, you got to get a DA on it. DA takes time.
Yeah.
It used to take 9 to 12 months. Now it takes
What was it, like 18 months or something?
18 to 24. So instead of you being able to quickly
Yeah,
act,
get it going.
you can't. So if I go buy a block of land in Parramatta and it costs 10 times as much to buy it in Parramatta than it does over there, I'm not going to buy it in Parramatta because I'm running a business.
And you also got to pay the holding fee or holding tax, whatever the hell it's called.
Yep.
And while you're waiting for that approval and all that sort of stuff, so you're not making any money, you're not making any progress.
Yep. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So they say to themselves, okay, well, we don't have as many buyers here because for us to be able to sell an apartment here, it has to be $1 million. And how many first home buyers can afford $1 million?
Yeah.
None.
None.
Literally, I ran the numbers the other day. Okay, no. You know what we'll do? We'll attract the investors. We'll go and we'll attract the investor market because investors can borrow a lot more.
Yeah.
And someone who's a first home buyer will, and they think to themselves, I'm going to save, I'm going to do stamp duty, everything. Fucking open a book. Come see me. I'll draw pictures, okay? And I'm about to go on one of my rants. I'm about to get really aggressive. You can't.
Pictures. Sorry.
No, but I crack the shits because people don't pay attention to what's happening. For people to get their visa in Australia, what do they need to do, Michael?
I would have no idea.
They need to complete I think it's anywhere between 3 months to 2 years of rural work. So you need to go to the outskirts, okay? So you're going to your Mildrawers, you're going to your Goulburns. These are the areas you need to go to work for 2 years, okay? The developer, the smart developer, isn't sitting there going to himself, yeah, cuz I'm going to go build a duplex. Do you know what he's saying to himself? Okay, you know what? The cost of land in those areas is going to be so much cheaper. I'm going to be able to build so much more because the government wants me to build there, to build those towns. And then on the other side of that, I'm going to have active tenants straight away. Why am I going to have active tenants? Because we're letting in so many people. And guess what? I'm probably going to be able to achieve pre-sales because Michael can get pre-approved for an investment loan of $800,000. So Michael might be able to buy 2 properties and he might be able to positively gear them because they're going to be $500 or $600 or $700 each a week in rent. Yeah.
Positively geared property.
The dream, right?
I know. Looking up to the stars.
But this is what people aren't seeing. They're thinking to themselves, oh, I've got to go compete with this person. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to hire better trades. No. The smart developer is aiming towards regional and rural, okay? and they know that they will be able to achieve pre-sales. They'll be able to do the house and land packages, and you see them all the time. Dual key occupancy. I've got a house and I've got a granny flat in the back, and you're going to be able to rent both for $850 together. Okay, that exists because of migration. Okay, and when interest rates go down, don't go. I'm not allowed to say it because I'm connected with some people. Don't go buying something that will depreciate in value if interest rates went up. Go buy something that is finite. And what is something that is finite?
Land.
Land. Why do people prefer land? Because they don't want people knocking upstairs, knocking downstairs. I can smell the person's food. I can hear people screaming across, the other
Couple having an argument next door, yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason why, because there's privacy. Also, strata's expensive, but that's another thing. The main reason is truthfully privacy.
Yeah, and it's also part of the Australian dream,
Correct.
You know it.
Picket fence, all that sort of stuff. So going back to what I was originally saying, which I know I've tangented off 1,000,001 times, as we always do here on the Finance Show with Joe.
What is on topic?
That is how the tariffs will affect us. The
Yeah.
interest rates will go down. You'll have people that already own property looking regional. They'll be able to buy more of those properties. We'll bring in more people because we'll be like, oh no, economy's not working. We've got to bring in more people. We can't fit them in Sydney. Go to Goulburn.
Yeah.
And guess what? The smart person's going to be already invested there and making money.
Yeah. I mean, it's about time that a region of Australia also gets some development, just in general.
No, that's bullshit. No. I disagree with that entirely. I disagree. Like, people are like, oh, it's about damn time, all this stuff, and those places get development. I agree with that to a point. But, man, it's hot, okay?
Oh, yeah. I was talking about the climate.
Okay? Like,
no, even like up towards Newcastle and things like that along the coast. Like, it doesn't have to be that way.
okay, good. All right.
I just mean outside of the major cities in general.
Man, there's like northern parts of South Australia that, like, bro, like, you're gonna have sweat coming out of places you didn't know existed. Anyways, I've gone to Bankstown now. This has been the Finance Show with Joe. If you don't want to learn about tariffs, you can listen to this episode because
I don't even think we learnt anything today.
Basically, to summarize this show, the tariffs are going to affect you. They're going to affect you in a way that you don't see on a macro level, but on a micro level. You will have more spending power, but unfortunately, we don't have the savings at the moment. The average Australian doesn't have the savings at the moment. People who are already landholders and property holders are going to benefit the most. People who have not yet entered the market, they are going to benefit the least. And my advice, general advice, that should not be taken seriously, speak to a financial advisor or financial professional, is speak to a mortgage broker, get yourself in the market, because I haven't seen a single policy from the government this weekend that says this is how we're going to increase housing supply. They just been throwing random hot keywords. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to Finance Show with Joe. As always, I'm Joe. That's Michael. And if you need any help with your finance or your property needs, you can contact us at www.itsimple.com.au. He won't answer. I will. And we'll go from there.
That's right. I won't answer.